Hi, pal. How are you? It is so good to see you. I wasn't sure what you wanted to drink, but I got us a table in the back. How has your week been? Mine has been relatively uneventful in the best of ways. I have spent most of my time trying to engage with friends about the new Sabrina Carpenter Rolling Stone cover. I have notes. I also have thoughts and opinions and questions. So many questions. Here are a few of the questions that I have. One, David LaChapelle. This is what you come back with. It's fine, but when talking about a photographic genius like David LaChapelle, I feel like fine is not the adjective you want to use. Second question, did anyone else think that Sabrina's eyes on the cover of Rolling Stone, if you zoom in and you look very closely at her eyes, they either look like the eyes of a lifeless blow up doll or Steve Buscemi, the wide eyed, watery gaze really is giving me Buscemi vibes. And I just really want to have this discourse with somebody. So please get in touch. Let's talk about it. Oh my gosh, I didn't even introduce myself. You are listening to Desperate for Attention. I am Leslie Simon. If this is your first episode, welcome. It's so nice to have you. I'm so excited I get to hang out with you, at least for the next little bit. And if you're a returning friend, it is so great to see you. I thought it was you. I look forward to this every week. I tell you every week that I look forward to this. And I swear, I'm telling the truth. I think you're brilliant. And I know you often get complimented on your looks, but I don't want to ignore how smart you are. Today's topic of conversation is a corner of the internet that existed for a very brief yet powerful moment in time. And for those who were avid followers of Johnny Cupcakes, All Time Low, Twilight, Clandestine Industries, Friends or Enemies, the MC Army, when I say the word Buzznet, I think you are probably taken right back to that time in your life where it was all about scene queens and concert photography and the kind of beautifully curated niche online communities that felt as though you were connected to people from all over the world in ways that made it felt like your best friends were all living on the same street as you. If that imagery doesn't strike a chord, that's okay. That's what this episode and, in fact, next episode are intended to do. We are going to reminisce together a little bit about the glory days of Buzznet. Before we do, I should probably offer a slight trigger warning that midway through this episode, I will be making mention to one Jeffree Star, who is a very controversial garbage person. However, he did occupy a very real and very, for lack of a better word, important place in internet celebrity history. First, being one of the biggest influencers and celebrities to come out of the MySpace era, but making his transition from MySpace to Buzznet as his platform of choice is worthy of a mention. And my discussion of him in this episode is really not much more than a mention. If that is too much for you because he is terrible, I understand. He's really not a huge part of the story. He's just a very tiny, itty bitty neon pink footnote. I'm probably talking about him more in this preamble than he's actually discussed within the episode, but I figured better safe than sorry, and I appreciate your patience. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's dig into the rise and fall of Buzznet. This episode here is going to be the rise. We're going to concentrate on the build, the growth, the journey to the top. Then next week, we will go headfirst into the decline of the site. I'm so happy you cleared the height requirements because this is going to be a really exciting ride. So, pay close attention to all posted signs and instructions, including those about loose articles and prohibited items. Let's ensure all restraints, including lap bars, shoulder harnesses, and seatbelts, are properly fastened and locked. While you do not have to remain seated with your back against the seat and headrest throughout this podcast, use the grab bars if available and keep hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the ride at all times. If everybody is locked in, I think we can let it rip.
I got your picture, I'm coming with you, dear Maria, count me in. There's a story at the bottom of this bottle, and I'm the pen.
The year is 2006. Your bangs are razor straight across your forehead, and you have just discovered the perfect angle for your digital camera. It's slightly above, tilted down, capturing that mysterious look you've been practicing in your bedroom mirror. You upload the photo to your profile, add some lyrics from Fall Out Boy as your caption, and wait. Within minutes, the comments start rolling in. OMG, gorgeous. Your hair is perfect. Scene queen status achieved. You're not on MySpace with its animated GIFs and seizure-inducing profiles. This isn't LiveJournal with its walls of angsty text. This is something different, cleaner, music-focused, where your taste in bands matters just as much as your carefully curated aesthetic. You're on Buzznet, and you don't know it yet, but you're participating in the beta test for everything Instagram would become. The platform that turned scene kids into the first content creators, that made online personality a viable career path, that proved you could monetize perceived authenticity if you were careful about it. Before there were influencers, there was scene royalty. Before brand partnerships, there were featured user programs. Before Instagram stories, there were daily photo updates documenting every outfit, every concert, every perfectly arranged bedroom shot. Buzznet lasted less than a decade, but its DNA is embedded in every sponsored post, every aesthetic grid, every carefully crafted online persona you see today. This is the story of the platform that accidentally built the future and then watched helplessly as bigger players copied their blueprint. Today, we are traveling back to the mid 2000s when the Sidekick 2 was the ultimate status symbol. You know, that chunky phone with the flip out keyboard that made you feel like a secret agent every time you typed a message. I had one, you had one. I miss it to this day. This was the era when choosing your top 8 friends on MySpace required the diplomatic skills of a UN mediator. You'd stare at that grid, rearranging profiles like chess pieces, knowing that bumping someone from position 3 to position 6 could potentially end a friendship. The social mathematics were brutal and unforgiving. Now, Buzznet existed in this perfect storm moment. It was after Friendster crashed and burned, but while MySpace was still the Wild West of autoplay music and animated GIFs. It was before Facebook opened to the general public and years before anyone had heard the word Instagram. For about 5 years, from roughly 2005 to 2010, Buzznet was the sophisticated older sibling of social media, attracting music fans who wanted something more curated, more community-driven, more, dare I say, grown up. But Buzznet's real innovation wasn't technical, it was cultural. The platform accidentally created the first generation of digital tastemakers by giving scene royalty like Audrey Kitching, Hannah Beth, and Jeffree Star the tools to turn their aesthetic into actual careers. They pioneered brand partnerships, developed devoted followings, and proved that curated authenticity could be extremely valuable. This is the part of the podcast where I interrupt our conversation just to also provide a little personal context. In March of 2008, I left my post as managing editor at Alternative Press magazine. I was working on my second book titled Wish You Were Here, an essential guide to your favorite music scenes from punk and indie and everything in between. I took the next few months to finish the book and get it ready for publication when I was contacted by the general manager of Buzznet about an opportunity to join the company. After having many conversations about where the platform was and where they wanted to go, I accepted the position of managing editor at Buzznet. It wasn't long before I packed up my apartment in Cleveland and moved to Los Angeles, which was in itself a dream come true. But I was also really excited to be at somewhat of the ground floor for a site and a community that held so much potential to the scene that I loved. Looking back with a lot of hindsight, there were more than a few warning signs that I probably should have picked up on a lot sooner than I did. In total, I spent about 6 months at Buzznet, but I don't regret a thing, mostly because I got laid off. That moment taught me more about the internet than any article or conference ever could. Digital platforms aren't just technology, they are really fragile ecosystems built on venture capital and user engagement and timing that can collapse seemingly overnight. And the most innovative platforms are not always the ones that survive. We're going to tackle this in two separate episodes. Today, we are going to primarily explore the rise of Buzznet and how they pioneered the creator economy a decade before TikTok made it mainstream. We'll examine the digital wasteland of early social media that created space for Buzznet to flourish, dive into how emo's visual culture provided the perfect content for a photo sharing platform, and meet the scene royalty who became the first digital tastemakers. Then, next week, we will examine the fall of Buzznet and investigate how the site's shift towards celebrity content ultimately killed what made it special. We will trace where the platform's innovations scattered across the internet and how it influenced everything from Instagram's algorithm to OnlyFans creator monetization. This is the story of a social network that got there first, built it better, and then watched bigger platforms copy their vision. Let's start in the digital chaos of 2004, when the internet was still figuring out what social media could become and making some spectacularly awkward mistakes along the way.
I've got the gift of one-liners and you've got the curse of curves. And with this gift, I can pose words and the question that comes forward: are you perspiring from the irony? Or are you sweating to these lyrics and misjusting? You're a dead fit, but my wit won't allow it. Inside lingo, heavy or low, and we go where the money goes.
To understand why Buzznet mattered, you need to understand the absolute mess that was early social media. We're talking about the years 2004, 2005, what some may call the internet's awkward teenage years, when nobody quite knew what they were doing, but everyone was completely convinced they were about to change the world. Like that kid in your high school who wore a fedora unironically and carried a briefcase, technically functional, but missing some crucial social awareness. Friendster launched first in 2002 with this revolutionary idea that you could map your real world social connections online. Brilliant concept, terrible execution. The site was so slow that users would click send friend request and then go reorganize their entire CD collection while waiting for the page to load. By 2004, Friendster was hemorrhaging users faster than a scene kid, switching from blonde highlights to jet black hair. Technical failures killed what should have been the Facebook before Facebook. Then there was MySpace, launching in 2003 like the digital equivalent of a house party that got completely out of control. MySpace was chaos, the platform where you could embed auto-playing music, plaster your profile with neon animated GIFs, and arrange your top 8 friends like you were curating a museum exhibit of your social life. The customization was incredible, but the user experience was, how can I say this? Imagine trying to read a magazine while someone is setting off fireworks in your backyard and playing 3 Metallica songs simultaneously. MySpace excelled at music discovery. Bands could upload songs, fans could find new artists through friend connections, and the comment sections became this weird sort of hybrid between fan mail and public performance. But visually, MySpace profiles looked like what would happen if a Hot Topic store collided with a Lisa Frank sticker collection. Meanwhile, LiveJournal existed in its own universe of teenage introspection. LiveJournal was where you went to write 1,000-word entries about your feelings, your day, your thoughts on whether Dashboard Confessional's new album lived up to the earlier EPs. The platform fostered really amazing communities around shared interests like music fandoms, poetry, photography, but it was almost entirely text based. Photos were afterthoughts, posted occasionally to accompany your emotional dissertations, but not much beyond that. What about Facebook? Well, Facebook was still locked behind college email addresses, still focused on connecting students within existing institutional frameworks, and the general public couldn't access Facebook until September 2006. And even then, it was this buttoned up, real name only environment, more like LinkedIn for college students than a place for creative expression. So here's what we had. Friendster was broken. MySpace was overwhelming. LiveJournal was text heavy, and Facebook was exclusive. Music fans, especially those gravitating towards emo, indie, and alt rock, were scattered across multiple platforms, none of which captured what they needed. They wanted some place to share photos of their outfits and their record collections and their concert experiences. They wanted to discover new bands through trusted community recommendations, not random profile surfing. They wanted visual storytelling capabilities without an aesthetic assault, discussion features without novel length requirements, and music integration that actually worked. The gap in the market was enormous. Someone just needed to be smart enough to fill it. Enter Anthony Batt, Mark Brown, Steve Haldane, and Kevin Woolery, 4 innovators who looked at the social media landscape of 2003 and thought, we can build something better. Batt, who helped launch Craigslist, brought serious technical credentials and a vision of user-generated content as legitimate media. Brown understood community building, while Haldane and Woolery provided the technical expertise to make their ambitious platform actually function. Their pitch was pretty elegant in its simplicity. What if MySpace wasn't a visual nightmare? What if you could share photos and discover music without feeling like you needed motion sickness medication to navigate someone's profile? What if social networking could be sophisticated without being boring? Buzznet launched in early 2005 with a clear aesthetic philosophy. minimal design, intuitive navigation, and features that actually worked. The platform looked grown up compared to MySpace's digital chaos, but it also wasn't completely corporate or sterile like early Facebook. It occupied this perfect middle ground where creativity could flourish without causing retinal damage. But the real genius was in the community structure. Instead of just letting users post whatever, whenever, Buzznet implemented a pretty advanced moderation system that elevated quality content. Active community members could earn moderator status, giving them a real investment in the platform's success. These weren't just users, they were stakeholders, tastemakers, and cultural arbiters. The message boards became the heart of the community, predating Reddit by several months and offering something MySpace's comment section never could: actual conversation. Music fans could engage in deep discussions about bands, albums, scenes, photography techniques, fashion trends. The boards created this area where expertise mattered, where contributing valuable content could earn you real recognition and influence. Photography was central to Buznet's identity from day one. This wasn't just about profile pictures. Users were encouraged to document their lives like they were creating visual diaries. Concert photography, style showcases, artistic self portraits, record collection displays. The platform's photo sharing capabilities were light years ahead of MySpace's clunky image hosting, and the minimal interface made every photo look so much better. Early funding came from traditional venture capital, but they were building a platform for people who cared about music, style, and visual storytelling. Every feature decision reinforced that identity. The timing seemed perfect. Emo was reaching its commercial peak, digital cameras were becoming affordable for teens and young adults, and music fans were desperate for better ways to connect online. Buzznet positioned itself as a really attractive alternative to MySpace's chaos, the visual complement to LiveJournal's text-heavy introspection, and the music-focused community that Facebook just couldn't provide. By late 2005, Buzznet was attracting exactly the users Goldman and Bat had envisioned: music-obsessed creatives who understood that online presence could be used as an art form rather than just a communication tool. Scene photographers were uploading concert photos that looked professional. Fashion-conscious users were creating visual narratives with the attention to detail of a magazine editorial shoot. Band members were using the platform to connect with fans in a way that felt real rather than promotional. Buzznet had found its audience. Now it just needed to figure out what to do with them. But success in the mid 2000s internet landscape was fragile. Platforms rose and fell based on user retention, technical stability, and perhaps most importantly, their ability to evolve with changing expectations. Buzznet had built something beautiful, but beauty alone would not be enough to survive what was coming next. Let's just say the scene was about to get very, very crowded.
Am I more than you bargained for yet? I've been dying to tell you anything you wanna hear, 'cause that's just who I am this week. Lie in the grass next to the mausoleum. I'm just a knot in your bedpost, but you're just a lot in a song. Drop a heart and break a name.
By 2006, something transformative was happening on Buzznet. Users weren't just posting photos, they were crafting personas with the deliberate artistry of gallery curators. What emerged would create an entirely new category of digital celebrity. We're back in 2006 now. We're done with the journey through social media's chaotic early days. Something transformative was happening on Buzznet that would reshape how we think about online identity. Users weren't just posting photos, they were crafting personas with the deliberate artistry of gallery curators. What emerged was a new category of digital celebrity, though nobody had the vocabulary to describe it just yet. These weren't traditional entertainers or established media figures. These were regular people who figured out how to transform their personal aesthetics into magnetic online presences. Consider Audrey Kitching, a 20-year-old from Illinois who'd migrated to Los Angeles with dreams of working in fashion. Pink hair, vintage band tees, thrift store treasures assembled with museum precision. Audrey didn't just post pictures, she told stories through color palettes and carefully chosen angles. Her Buzznet profile became this visual autobiography where every post felt intentional, designed to make you want whatever ineffable coolness she seemed to possess so naturally. But what made Audrey's approach groundbreaking wasn't just her aesthetic. It was her understanding that genuine personality could be a product. Not manufactured sincerity, but real individual expression packaged thoughtfully. She'd post photos of her breakfast, but the lighting was perfect. She'd share outfit shots that captured specific moods, making followers feel like they were glimpsing something genuinely personal rather than staged. Then there was Hannah Beth, whose film producer father had given her access to LA's creative scene, but she carved out her own space by turning her love of vintage fashion into an ongoing visual narrative. Hannah taught her followers how to spot a perfect 1960s shift dress buried between polyester disasters, or how to style pieces that shouldn't work together but somehow did when she wore them. Kiki Cannibal brought controversial MySpace royalty energy when she migrated over, with persistent rumors about dating various metalcore and post hardcore band members that were never confirmed but just added to her mystique. Then you had Jeffree Star, who represented something entirely different. The 21-year-old had already built a massive MySpace following, but migrated to Buzznet seeking a more sophisticated audience for his gender bending makeup tutorials. His Buzznet presence became education disguised as entertainment, showing followers techniques that felt dangerous and exciting in 2006 when mainstream beauty tutorials barely existed online. What united these users wasn't just visual flair, it was their approach to community building. They treated their comment sections like intimate gatherings where ideas could be exchanged, creating spaces that felt more like workshops than fan interactions. When Audrey responded to comments, this wasn't corporate messaging, it was genuine conversation about music, style, and life philosophy. While MySpace remained a visual assault of clashing colors and competing audio streams, Buzznet had solved something crucial. Music fans didn't just want to listen, they wanted to curate and display their taste as personal expression. The platform became the sophisticated network where your record collection could tell your story as powerfully as your photos. Users photographed their vinyl arrangements so beautifully, the pictures could have been bound in a coffee table book. Concert photography evolved into this competitive art form where quality of your images could earn you backstage access, relationships with touring photographers, or even recognition from the artists themselves. The platform's photography community included so many standouts, way more than I could even mention here, who would eventually become some of the most sought after music photographers in the industry. Band members started joining Buzznet not for promotional purposes, but because the community felt genuine. Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance would contribute to discussion threads about comic books. Members of Panic at the Disco would share behind the scene photos that felt like glimpses into their actual lives. The Used's Burt McCracken would engage directly with fans in a way that MySpace's chaotic interface made nearly impossible. Concert photography on Buzznet evolved into incredible documentation that went far beyond simple snapshots. Users weren't just taking pictures, they were creating visual narratives about live music culture. The most skilled photographers developed distinctive styles that other users could identify instantly. Comment sections became educational forums where lighting techniques were debated, equipment recommendations were shared, and artistic approaches were refined. The platform accidentally created this mentorship network where established photographers would guide newer users, sharing technical knowledge and industry connections. By 2007, some Buzznet users were even landing professional gigs based entirely on portfolios they'd built through the platform. When Audrey Kitching posted about discovering a new band, her followers actually listened because her taste had proven reliable over months of recommendations. This created a ripple effect throughout the music scene. Bands would notice their streaming numbers spike after certain influential users championed them. A&R representatives realized that Buznet's engaged community could predict which artists might break through to mainstream success. So as 2006 turned into 2007, brands finally grasped what was happening on Buzznet. Here were highly engaged communities built around users that followers genuinely trusted, not just celebrities selling products, but peers sharing authentic recommendations. The challenge was monetizing this influence without destroying the trust that made it valuable. The early attempts were pretty clumsy. Banner advertisements that clashed with Buzznet's clean aesthetic, sponsored posts that obviously felt commercial and uncomfortable. But the breakthrough came when the platform started partnering directly with their most popular users, creating featured user programs where seen celebrities could integrate brand partnerships into their existing content style. In 2007, the platform also brought in Tyler Goldman as CEO, a former Feedster president with experience scaling digital media companies. Goldman's arrival signaled that Buzznet was ready to evolve from startup to serious business, but it also marked the beginning of tension between the community values and commercial growth. Audrey Kitching began working with vintage inspired clothing lines like Lip Service and Trip NYC, companies that aligned with her established aesthetic. Hannah Beth partnered with thrift store chains and independent designers who appreciated her eye for unique pieces. These weren't the polished influencer campaigns we recognize today. Audrey might wear a specific brand of jean in a photo, but the caption would focus on the vintage band tee she'd paired with them or the concert she'd attended in the outfit. These brand integrations felt organic because they were organic. These users genuinely wore and used the products they promoted. Early partnerships were modest in scale, clothing companies sending free pieces to popular users, music labels providing exclusive album access, photography equipment companies offering community discounts. Life changing money wasn't flowing yet, but the foundation was being established for something much bigger. What made these partnerships so successful was the trust Buzznet's user base had developed. Followers understood that their favorite scene celebrities weren't selling out. They were pioneering ways to sustain creative careers in a digital economy that hadn't established clear rules yet. But success was attracting attention from much bigger players, and that attention would soon complicate everything about what Buzznet could become. First, though, the platform had to navigate the complex social dynamics it had created. The platform's ecosystem wasn't just about music and fashion, it was about people. And by 2006, Buzznet had cultivated something unprecedented, a structured hierarchy of digital celebrities who wielded real cultural influence. These weren't traditional entertainers or media personalities. They were peers who had transformed themselves into icons through sheer force of aesthetic vision and strategic self presentation. At the apex sat the untouchables. Jeffree Star commanded absolute scene royalty status, seamlessly bridging emo culture, drag performance, beauty expertise, and music production. His business acumen set him apart. While others created content, he built an empire. Audrey Kitching embodied West Coast scene perfection with her pale pink hair and vintage aesthetic mastery. Then Hannah Beth represented East Coast Golden Girl potential with serious mainstream crossover appeal. The second tier consisted of specialists who carved out specific niches. Raquel Reed perfected the doll face aesthetic with porcelain skin, dramatic eye makeup, and flawlessly styled scene hair. Her friendship with Jeffrey amplified her reach, but she built her own following through high quality photography and mysterious, ethereal presentation. Her longevity came from constantly refining her look rather than completely reinventing it. She was one of the first to understand lighting and angles in ways that made her photos genuinely stand out. Then you had Jack Vanek, who approached scene queen status from an entrepreneurial angle, designing accessories and building business connections. Someone like Brickell Bones captured the younger demographic with her doll like aesthetic, and Zoo Suicide brought Suicide Girls crossover appeal and alternative modeling expertise to the platform. This will likely come as a shock to no one, but this hierarchy that I just described wasn't stable. Internal scene queen wars erupted regularly, and these conflicts were brutal because they played out publicly. The authenticity wars involved constant accusations about who was real scene versus who was manufactured for the platform. Geographic rivalries meant East Coast versus West Coast scene queens threw subtle and not so subtle shade at each other's credibility and connections. As brand deals entered the picture, friendships fractured over exclusive partnerships and perceived betrayals. The scene was small enough that everyone knew everyone, which made the conflicts completely devastating. When controversies erupted, audiences were forced to pick sides in ways that split entire communities. The platform tried managing these dynamics through verification systems and featured user programs, but every attempt to formalize the hierarchy created even newer tensions. Users who had built followings organically resented these newcomers who seemed to gain influence through connections rather than content quality. The egalitarian creative community was slowly becoming a stratified social network where influence determined access to opportunities. What made these conflicts particularly damaging was their public nature, no doubt about it. Comment sections became battlegrounds where fans defended their chosen scene queens, creating pretty toxic environments. The intimate community feeling that had made Buzznet so special was being replaced by competitive performance anxiety. But these internal tensions were nothing compared to the external pressures building around the platform's success.
I'm finding out love's unreliable. I'm giving all I got to make you stay, or am I just a roadblock in your way? Cause you're a pretty little windstorm out on the boulevard, something like a sunset. Oh yeah, a shooting star. And I might drive myself insane if those lips aren't speaking my name. Cause I've got some intuition, or maybe
by late 2007, Buzznet had achieved something remarkable. They'd created the template for the modern creator economy. Influencer marketing, brand partnerships, community driven content curation, visual storytelling as personal branding. The platform was pulling in millions of monthly users. Featured creators were earning real money, and major brands were lining up to access their engaged communities. The scene royalty had transcended their digital origins. Jeffree Star was launching makeup lines and music career. Audrey Kitching was consulting for fashion brands and appearing in major magazines. Hannah Beth was fielding modeling offers. What started as teenagers sharing photos had evolved into legitimate media careers built on the foundation of authentic community connection. Venture capitalists were taking notice. Traditional media companies were scrambling to understand how these platforms generated such devoted audiences. Buzznet wasn't just a social network anymore. It was a cultural institution that had proven you could monetize creativity without sacrificing authenticity. But success was attracting bigger predators. Facebook was about to open to the general public. Instagram was being developed in a garage, directly inspired by platforms like Buzznet. Corporate investors were circling, promising resources to scale beyond anything the platform had imagined. Standing at the summit of their influence, with millions of users and proven cultural impact, Buzznet faced a choice that would determine everything: stay independent and risk being overtaken, or accept outside investment and risk losing the community trust that made them valuable in the first place. They were about to learn that in the digital economy, sometimes winning means losing everything. Next time on Desperate for Attention, the fall of Buzznet. Corporate money floods in, Facebook launches to the public. The authenticity that built the platform becomes its biggest liability. And Scene Royalty discovers that digital empires can crumble faster than they rise. The roller coaster reaches its peak, but next week we take the plunge. That's a wrap on the rise of Buzznet. Next episode, we will cover the decline. This is Desperate for Attention. I am still Leslie Simon. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you can choose to spend your time with many different podcasts, and I am so grateful that you have chosen mine. If you are not already following Desperate for Attention on your favorite podcasting platform, please go ahead and smash all the buttons. I don't care what buttons there are, just smash them. If you feel like throwing a rating my way, I like the sound of 5 stars. If you're not already connected to the podcast on Instagram, you can find it at Desperate for Attention Pod. Same handle on YouTube as well. I'm posting all sorts of emo Y2K goodies on both platforms that you just don't want to miss. If you'd like to follow me, Leslie Simon, I can be found on Instagram at Red Pattern Dress. Last favor to ask you: if you have enjoyed what you've listened to today and in previous episodes, do unto others as Taking Back Sunday has done onto you, and tell all your friends. Send us to someone that you love. Send us to someone that you hate. Send us to someone that you're absolutely indifferent about. I don't need to know the story behind it. I'm intrigued what happened, but that's a conversation for a different time. Thank you for joining me today. I hope we can do this again. How about same time, same place, you and me, it's a date. I'll see you then. Bye.
Oh dear, it's been hardly a moment and you are already missed. There is still a bit of your skin that I've yet to have kissed. Oh, say please do not go, but you know that I must. Oh, say I love you so, but you know you can trust. We'll be holding hands once again. All our broken plans I will mend, and I'll hold you tight so you know it is love from the first time I pressed my